Lakshmikanth polity, Indian polity. We are going to see about the topic salient features of the Indian Constitution. Okay, we are going to see salient features of the Indian Constitution. Okay, let's see. Introduction. The Indian Constitution is unique. The Indian Constitution is very unique. Okay, in its contents and spirit. Though borrowed from almost every constitution of the world, the Constitution of India has several salient features that distinguish it from the constitutions of other countries. It should be noted at the outset that a number of original features of the Constitution, as adapted in 1949, have undergone a substantial change on account of several amendments. Partially, 7th 42nd Amendment, then 44th Amendment, 73rd Amendment, 74th Amendment, 97th Amendments. In fact, the 42nd Amendment 1976 is known as Mini Constitution due to its important and large number of changes by it in various parts of the Constitution. However, in the Kesavananda Bharati case 1973. Kesavananda Bharati case 1973. The Supreme Court ruled that the constituent power of Parliament under Article 368 does not enable it to alter the basic not enable it is important not enable it to alter the basic structure of the Constitution. Okay, salient features of the Constitution. The salient features of the Constitution as it stands today are as follows. First one, the lengthiest written Constitution. Constitutions are classified into written like the American Constitution or unwritten like the British Constitution. The Constitution of India is the lengthiest of all the written constitutions of the world. It is a very comprehensive, elaborate and detailed document. Originally 1949, the Constitution contained a preamble with 395 articles divided into 22 parts and 8 schedules. What is it? 395 articles and 8 schedules initially in 1949. Presently at 2016, okay, it is consists of 465 articles and divided into 25 parts with 12 schedules. Okay, the various amendments carried out since 1951 have deleted about 20 articles and one part 7 and added about 90 articles. Okay, the amendments can deleted 20 articles and added 90 articles. Okay, the part 7 also deleted and 4 parts are added, that is 4a 9a 9b 14a. Okay, and 4 schedules are added, 9 schedule, 10 schedule, 11 schedule, 12 schedule. No other constitution in the world has so many articles and schedules. 4 factors have contributed to the elephantine size of the constitution. They are: first one, geographical factors, that is the vastness of the country and its diversity. Next one, the historical factors, example, the influence of the Government of India of Act of 1935. The influence of the Government of India Act of 1935, historical factors, which was bulky. Single constitution for both the center and the states except Jammu and Kashmir. Dominance of legal luminaries in the Constituent Assembly. The Constitution contains not only the fundamental principles of governance but also detailed administrative provisions. Further, those matters which in other modern democratic countries have been left to the ordinary legislation or established political conventions have also been included in the constitutional document itself in India. The Constitution contains not only the fundamental principles of governance but also detailed administrative provisions. Okay. Further, those matters which in other modern democratic countries have been left to the ordinary legislation or established political conventions have also been included in the constitutional document itself in India. Drawn from various sources, the Constitution of India has borrowed most of its provisions from the constitutions of various other countries as well as from the Government of India Act of 1935. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar proudly acclaimed that the Constitution of India has been framed after ransacking all the known constitutions of the world. Act of 1935, after ransacking all the known constitution of the world. Okay, the structural part of the constitution is to a large extent derived from the Government of India Act of 1935. The philosophical part of the constitution, the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy derived their inspiration from the American and Irish constitution. The fundamental rights from American constitution and the DPSP, directive principles of state policy, from Irish constitutions. The political part of the constitution, the principle of cabinet government and the relations between the executive and the legislation, have been largely drawn from the British constitution. Which one? The political part of the constitution, the principle of cabinet government and the relations between the executive and the legislature, have been largely drawn from the British government constitution. The other provisions of the constitution have been drawn from these constitutions of Canada, then Australia, then Germany, USSR, Russia, then France, then South Africa and Japan, and so on. The most profound influence and material source of the constitution is the Government of India. The important question, the most profound influence and material source of a constitution is the Government of India Act 1935. The federal scheme, judiciary, governors, emergency powers, the public service commissions, and most of the administrative details are drawn from this act. More than half of the provisions of the constitution are identical to or bear a close resemblance of the act of 1935. More than half resembles like Constitution, Government of India Act 1935. What are they? The federal scheme, the judiciary, the governors, emergency powers, the public service commissions, and most of the administrative details, okay, are drawn from this Government of India Act. Okay, next we are going to see blend of rigidity and flexibility. First one, we have seen lengthiest written constitution, then drawn from various sources, then blend of rigidity and flexibility. Constitutions are also classified into rigid and flexible. Constitutions are rigid and flexible. Okay, rigid means it should not be changeable. Flexible means it is easy to changeable. Both it is rigid and flexible. A rigid constitution is one that requires a special procedure for its amendment. As for example, the American Constitution. Rigid constitution is one that requires a special procedure for its amendment. As for example, the American Constitution, rigid, is from American Constitution. Flexible constitution, on the other hand, is one that can be amended in the same manner as the ordinary laws are made, as from the example British Constitution. It is rigid like American Constitution, it is flexible like British Constitution. Okay. Next part, the Constitution of India is neither rigid nor flexible, but a synthesis of both. It is neither rigid nor flexible, but a synthesis of both. Article 368 provides for into types of amendments. Okay. Some provisions can be amended by a special majority of the parliament, that is 2/3 majority. Special majority means 2/3 majority, okay, of the parliament, of the members of each house present and voting, and a majority that is more than 50% of the total membership of each house. Actually, some provisions can be amended by a special majority of the parliament, that is 2/3 majority of the members of each house, majority of members of each house present and voting, okay, and a majority that is more than 50%. The total membership of the each house, total membership of the each house, total membership la 50%. Okay. Okay. Some other provisions that can be amended by a special majority of the parliament and with the ratification by half of the total states. Some other provisions can be amended by special majority of the parliament and with the ratification by half of the total states. Okay, half of the total states. Okay, at the same time, some provisions of the constitution can be amended by a simple majority of the parliament in the manner of ordinary legislature process. Notably, these amendments do not come under article. These amendments do not come under. That is important. These amendments do not come under Article 368. At the same time, some provisions of the constitution can be amended by a simple majority of the parliament in the manner of ordinary legislative process. Notably, these amendments do not come under Article 368. Next, federal system with unitary bias. Federal system with unitary bias. That is very, very important. Federal, Kutachi. Okay. The Constitution of India establishes a federal system of government. It contains all the usual features of federation, that is, two government, division of powers, written constitution, supremacy of constitution, rigidity of constitution, independent judiciary and bicameralism. Okay, the Constitution of India establishes a federal system of government. It contains all the usual features of federation. What are they? Two government, division of powers, actually two government, central and state government, division of powers, the power should be divided between central and state government, and written constitution. Okay, there is a written constitution for both central and state government. Supremacy of constitution. Okay, then rigidity of constitution. It's very important. This rigidity is taken from the American Constitution. Then independent judiciary is independent, and bicameralism. Okay, bicameralism, these are the features of federal government in our country. However, the Indian Constitution also contains large number of unitary or non-federal features. Also, our Constitution contains unitary or non-federal features also contains, okay, in our Constitution. That is a strong center. What is a non-federal features? Strong center, single constitution, single citizenship, flexibility of constitution, integrated judiciary appointment of state governor, okay, by the center only appointments the governor, no, that is one. Okay, next, single citizenship, flexibility of constitution, easily constitution can be changed by the parliament itself. Okay, also all India services, then emergency provisions, it is under only central government and so on. These are the non federal system form of government features. Okay, moreover, the term federation has nowhere been used in the constitution. The term federation, it is important, is not nowhere used in the constitution. The term federation is nowhere used in the constitution. Article 1 on the other hand describes India as a union of states, which implies two things. One, Indian federation is not the result of an agreement by the states, and two, no state has the right to secede from the federation. Okay, Article 1 explains what it explains. Union of states. Article 1 said union of states, which implies two things. One is Indian federation. Indian federation is not a result of agreement by the states. Indian federation is not the result of the agreement by the states, union of states. And number two is no state has the right to secede from the federation. No state has the right to secede from the federation. Okay, you have to note it. Next, hence the Indian Constitution has been variously described as federal in form but unitary in spirit. It is described as federal in form but unitary in spirit. Okay. Quasi-federal by K.Z. Weir. K.Z. Weir said that quasi-federal, the constitution is quasi-federal. Okay, this para is very, very important because the great peoples can say about this federal system of government. Quasi-federal, that is they like semi-federal like this. Quasi-federal by Casey Weir. Casey Weir said it is quasi-federal. Then bargaining federalism by Morris Jones. Morris Jones said bargaining federalism. Okay. Cooperative federalism by Granville and Austin. Cooperative federalism by Granville and Austin. Okay. Bargaining federalism by Morris Jones. KZVR said quasi-federal. Then cooperative federalism by Granville Austin. Federation with a centralization tendency by Ivor Jennings. Federalization with a centralization tendency by Ivor Jennings. That is very, very, very important. You have to note it down. Hence, the Indian Constitution has been described as federal in form but unitary in spirit. The this federal system is described by many peoples. The KC Weir said this at quasi-federal. Okay. KC quasi, just for remaining KC quasi. Okay. Then for bargaining federalism by Morris Jones. Bargaining federalism by Morris Jones. Okay. Next, cooperative federalism by Granville and Austin. Cooperative federalism by Granville and Austin. Next, federation with a centralization tendency by Ivor Jennings. Federalization with centralization tendency by Ivor Jennings. That's all about today. We are going to parliamentary form of government and synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy, integrated and independent judiciary, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, fundamental duties. Okay, fundamental duties, a secular state, universal adult franchise, single citizenship, independent bodies, emergency provisions, three-tier government. These are all we can discuss in the next class. Okay. Today we are importantly noted about the federal system. Okay, salient features of the constitution. Lengthiest written constitution drawn from various sources. Okay, Okay, next one, federal system, blend of rigidity and flexibility. This federal system set by Casey Weir. Quasi-federal, bargaining federalism by Morris Jones. Okay, cooperative federalism by Granville Austin. Federalization with a centralization tendency by Ivor Jennings. Okay, let us go. Bye bye. Next video we will see. Bye guys.